So waiting for hot water is a 20th century inconvenience. Dive into the 21st century with technology that offers the comfort and convenience of on-demand hot water. What used to be a luxury is now easy for builders to install. So we'll be starting off this presentation. Taco is actually our sponsor of this webcast. We'll be talking about some of the products they offer for builders and contractors to use for on-demand hot water. So the idea is that these are affordable products that not only offer comfort, convenience, but also some conservation benefits. So again, I'm Andrew Medeiros. I'm the editor-in-chief for Tech Home Builder. I'm a former TV news reporter, so we kind of pride ourselves here on breaking down technology into a conversational way that people can understand. I also want to introduce my colleague, Greg Vellante, here beside me today. Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I have a background writing for quite a few publications on a variety of topics right now. I'm kind of the go-to writer at Tech Home Builder for the long-form, in-depth editorial pieces, and I'm a really big fan of like AV and entertainment-based tech, but I got a real sweet spot for energy efficiency. So smart water is, it covers that a lot. So I'm excited to talk about some of that stuff today.
And we're really excited to start talking about smart water. Oh, my New England accent came out there. Sorry about that, guys. We're really excited to talk about smart water and how it fits into the healthy home. We actually just launched a newsletter this year on the healthy home and some of the different technologies that go into that and how you can market the healthy home to your customers. The on-demand hot water fits into that. We're also going to talk about some other technologies that fit into smart water. Greg, did you want to talk a little bit about those before we introduce John?
Yeah, aside from on-demand hot water, there are a lot of things that fall into the smart water realm. We got gray water recycling, water filtration, leak detection, leak sensors, and you can even bring it outside with geothermal to help with the pool areas and smart irrigation technologies. So it's a really, it's wider than just smart water.
Yeah, and smart water, you don't really think about it as one of the sexy technologies like home automation, but it's definitely growing in the industry because it has applications both inside and out. And one of those applications, like we've mentioned several times, is on-demand hot water. And at this point, we want to turn it over to John Barba with Taco. Taco is sponsoring today's webcast, and he's going to tell us a little bit about not only smart water and why it's useful, convenient, comfortable, and helps you conserve, but why it's so important in the marketplace and some of the products that you guys can be using.
Thank you, Andrea, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. When it comes to what we're talking about here with instant hot water, what we mean is not making hot water instantly. Of course, your tankless water heaters can make hot water like that. It's basically talking about facilitating the journey from the water heater to the fixture. Doesn't matter how quickly you can make the hot water, you still have to get it from point A to point B. And that journey's gotten considerably longer as houses have gotten bigger over the past 40 to 50 years. If you go back to 1970, the median home was about 1,600 square feet. And if you had been in a home that was built around 1970, the drainage, waste, and vent pipe was mostly cast iron and copper. So the way houses were built back then, simply due to cost and complexity for the most part, your plumbing was in a stack going straight up the house. Having bathroom groups on far ends of homes was incredibly expensive and incredibly cumbersome from a plumbing standpoint. Starting in the late 60s and moving into the early 70s, the advent of PVC or ABS drain pipe made plumbing a heck of a lot easier, faster, and less expensive. So spreading out the home became a lot more feasible. You could have bathroom groups on a far end of the house. You didn't have to have everything in a stack. So plumbing got a little bit more complex. The journey from the mechanical room, where the water heater was, to the fixtures started to get a little bit farther. Back in 1970, a house built back then, the average distance to the farthest fixture away was about 30 feet. Today, the average is about 90 feet for homes built in the last, say, 10 years. In addition, we have more hot water fixtures in houses today than we did in houses built in 1970. That calls for more volume. More volume, more fixture units requires bigger pipe to get the water from point A to point B in ample quantities. So you combine distance, you combine larger pipe, you also combine flow restricting fixtures where by code you have minimum flow through these fixtures. You combine all of that and you're winding up with a journey that takes about 18 times longer in a home built of recent vintage compared to a home built back in 1970. Again, your mileage may differ, but that's about average. The thing to remember here is while you're sitting there waiting for hot water at your fixture, you've got 3.5 gallons of water going down the drain that's basically gone. So a homeowner who's on city water is not only paying for that water to come in, he's paying to get rid of that water, and he's adding some stress to the water heater that may not be necessary. So it can be a rather large waste. Enter to help alleviate that problem and to create more convenience and to create more comfort and to add some efficiency, we have our instant hot water products at Takeout. Instant hot water, we call it instant hot water because from a homeowner standpoint, domestic hot water recirculation sounds something crazy and I don't know what that is, and if I don't know what it is, I apparently don't need it. Instant hot water everybody gets. Nobody likes sitting in the shower or sitting outside of the shower with their hand in the shower for about 2 or 3 minutes waiting for the water to get hot before they can get in. You feel kind of silly. So there's a time function there that it's just people don't like to do that. In addition, there is an ecological and efficiency benefit where you can save up to 12,000 gallons of water a year with domestic hot water recirculation. That number comes from the Department of Energy for an average family of 4. You can save up to 12,000 gallons of water a year. So there's no wasting. There's cost involved, obviously, that we're saving. So all of these things are positive things when we're talking about instant hot water. When it comes to thinking about your customers, what we have found over our experience in providing these products is you can kind of break it up into 3 separate groups. You have one group, one end of the spectrum that only cares, they don't care about what it costs, they don't care about the electrical consumption, they don't care about any extra wear and tear put on the water heater. They built their dream house, they turn on a faucet, they want hot water, no excuses. All right, I don't care how much it costs, I don't care anything, whenever I turn any hot water tap on, anytime, 24 hours a day, I want hot water there instantly. That's one group. We have a solution for that group. On the other end of the group, other end of the spectrum, you have folks that just want hot water. They just want to say they have hot water recirculation. They have to fill in a box on a checklist. Oddly enough, it's the same basic solution as it is for the other end, which is basically a timer pump. In the middle, you have people who are concerned with convenience, they're concerned with cost, they're concerned with being green, and they're concerned with wasting in various amounts of importance. Somebody may really care about the convenience. I'm not so worried about wasting. Someone may be concerned about cost. They're not so concerned about convenience. There could be somebody, I just don't want to waste anything. I don't care what it costs. We have solutions to fit all of those. It's just a matter of applying them. There's many different ways to do instant hot water. It's a matter of picking the right one for the right application, and it can be fairly simple. Let's take a look at our featured product for new construction, and this is called the Smart Plus hot water recirculation system, and it's simply a circulator like you see here that is piped with a dedicated hot water recirculation line. It's very simple, and as Andrew would say, pretty smart, right? Gotcha. It's very simple. It's very smart. It actually learns your hot water usage patterns and then repeats them. That's where the smarts come in. The way this thing works is once you install it, you install it on a dedicated return line. So from your farthest fixture away, you'll have a dedicated hot water recirculation return line coming back to the mechanical room. In essence, what any of these circulators will do is they're going to keep your hot water main primed with hot water when we know there's going to be usage. So when someone turns on a tap, there's just a little bit of cold water in the branch and then the hot water's there, so we really minimize the weight. That's the goal of any hot water recirculation program. Keep the hot water main primed. The way this sucker works is we have a sensor, and you can see the wire there on the picture, a sensor that is wired to the hot water supply as it leaves the mechanical room. What this circulator does when you first install it, and it's the electrical connection is simply a plug-in. When you first install it, it goes into a learning mode. What that means is it will pulse. It's going to run 2.5 minutes on, 10 minutes off. 2.5 minutes on, 10 minutes off. 24 hours a day for the first week. All right, so it's always priming that main with hot water. So anytime during that week when you're using hot water, it'll be there. But while it's doing that, it's also learning your usage patterns. So let's say somebody gets up 6:30 Monday morning and they take a shower. Well, the sensor senses the temperature rise and sustained use of the shower, and it records that in the brain. And what the brain says is, okay, Monday morning, 6:30, somebody took a shower. What that tells me, so what that tells me is 6:30 something happens. So the following Monday, it goes out of learning mode and goes actually into the smart mode. At 5:30 Monday morning, it'll start pulsing 2.5 on, 2 off, 2.5 on, 10 off, 2.5 on, 10 off, an hour in advance of that 6:30. That allows for someone who might get up a little earlier. It might allow for some changes in plans. It also allows for changes in daylight savings time. The problem with programs, or with like timer pumps, no one ever reprograms them for daylight savings time. This will be reprogrammed for daylight savings time automatically because it just senses your uses and the changes in your patterns. And it learns your patterns all throughout the week and then repeats them. The following week, if anything changes, it relearns and repeats again, relearns and repeats again. Incredibly intelligent, no programming, no clocks, very little, if any, user interaction. It has a vacation mode. If it senses no hot water use for 36 hours, it goes into a shutdown mode. So so the pump isn't running when no one's home. Overall, when we factor into this product does have the lowest overall electrical costs of any non-demand type circulator, and we'll see something about that in a moment. And again, it saves water, it prevents overuse or overwork at the water heater, and it saves electricity. And it's a very simple and incredibly intelligent addition to the modern home. To help provide the consumer with the convenience that they want and keep waste to a minimum and keep overall electrical costs and gas costs at the water heater to a minimum. So you put those two things together, you have a very slick piece of equipment. Next on the hit list is something called the Taco Genie, and this is for those tankless water heaters. The Taco Genie it works only on command, meaning it only operates, the pump only runs when a hot water use is imminent. And it can be enabled either by a push button, where the homeowner can actually push a button and manually turn on the pump to deliver hot water to the furthest fixture, or it can work with a motion sensor, where you walk into a bathroom, you break the beam of the motion sensor, and that will activate the circulator. This is important. This type of operation is critically important with tankless solutions. We do see people either trying to jerry-rig or Mickey Mouse, if you will, some sort of a timer pump for a tankless water heater, simply because it's the least expensive pump there is. The timer pump is very inexpensive. But a timer pump, by definition, runs when the timer says it has to run, whether there's a need for hot water or not. If you think, everybody out there, just think about what happens. If you were to run a pump through a tankless water heater without any imminent use for domestic hot water, let's say it's running for 25-30 minutes just because that's when the timer says it's supposed to run and nobody happens to be home, what's that water heater going to do? It's going to short cycle itself into an early grave. You're going to have greatly diminished fuel efficiency at the water heater, but when you start running a thing like this, all the moving parts, the spark ignition modules, the gas valves, all of those other things are going to wear that thing out in advance. So this automatic reset or automatic activation product is going to work very, very well with the tankless water heater. Two last products, and I see I'm over my time, but I'll be very, very quick. These are for retrofit applications or for applications where there is no domestic hot water recirculation line and you have to, shoehorn in a solution. First is the HotLink. It is a timer-based circulator, but what this does is we use a crossover valve under the sink, as you see here, and a circulator, and we use the cold water line as the return line back to the water heater. Everyone's concerned about having hot water in the cold water line. We have a thermal sensor disc in that cartridge that you see there that will that once the hot water arrives, it will in fact close that valve so we won't get any hot water in the cold water line. You might get a little tepid water right at that fixture, but very, very little throughout the rest of the system, if any. So it's really, we've taken great pains to make sure that is not a concern. And lastly, we have, well, here we show if you have the HotLink with multiple valves that can be in different bathroom groups onto the sink. If you have one pump can certainly do many different bathrooms because of the piping arrangement and the abilities of the circulator. So you're not just limited to one bathroom group, you can go to many others. And then ultimately we have what we call the HotLink Plus. This marries the SmartLink technology, or the Smart Plus technology we talked about earlier, with this retrofit application with a crossover valve under the sink. So it combines those two technologies, and this is the perfect smart solution for instant domestic hot water in homes without a recirculation line. For more information, please check our website, taco-hvac.com, and look for instant hot water under our applications banner, and you can find out more information there. And please feel free to email me. I'm sorry, I don't have my email address up there. It's johbar@tacocomfort.com. tacocomfort.com, and I'll type that into the chat section in case you need that. And I'll be here all throughout to answer any questions that you may have as well. And thank you very much for your time. Sorry for going over. I'll send it back to Andrea.
All right, thanks so much, John. Some really interesting, affordable options there for both comfort and conservation. What we're going to do is I'm going to go over just a few data points, and like John said, he'll be back at the end of the discussion to answer any questions. But first, I'm going to go over a few data points before I introduce our esteemed panelists. So first of all, I just wanted to show this graph. We did a survey along with New Home Digital Marketing Entity, BDX, over the past year that shows that home buyers are aware and strongly interested in a variety of technologies. And if you look, the third up from the bottom, one of those is energy consumption, which obviously water plays a role in, and that's more than half of those surveyed are interested in purchasing technologies that support that. And 300 people responded to this, and they're all people who are interested in buying a home in the next 2 years. So some interesting information there. I also wanted to dive a little bit into our idea of the tech home of today. In the past decade, we've talked a lot about entertainment and AV, but we think that there are a lot more elements to the tech home of today, including smart, healthy, and green. And smart water fits into at least 3 of those elements. I don't know if smart water is entertaining. It depends what kind of person you are, but it definitely fits into the other 3. We also have some statistics here about smart water itself. 36% of those people surveyed plan to install smart water in the next 2 years. That would be leak detection and protection systems. Also water monitoring management systems, 50%, and smart irrigation and sprinkling systems, 37%. So this is definitely something that is growing in our industry, something that we need to be paying attention to, and something that could be conserving energy in the homes we build, and really is a technology that builders can install themselves, especially the kind that John was talking about. And with that, we want to introduce our panelists. 2 of them are builders. We also have a project manager on the panel today. First of all, we have Barry Hensley with North Star Luxury Homes. He does custom luxury building in the Dallas, Texas area. We also have Pam Fossey. She's based in North Carolina, also does some custom luxury building, very focused on energy efficiency. And she's also going to be here with one of her project managers who has 40+ years of construction experience as well. So we're going to hear from all of them and hopefully have some time for some discussion at the end. First of all, let's introduce Barry. Barry, talk to us a little bit about how you use smart water technology in your homes.
I sure will, Andrea. Thank you for having me on the presentation. I am a luxury home builder in the Dallas, Texas area, and I build about 6 or 7, sometimes 8 different projects in a year. And I don't want to assume that everybody knows exactly what smart water tech is. So I just wanted to quickly go through, the what, the why, and the how of it. And what we do with smart tech and water is using technology to reduce water consumption and wastewater in a residential environment. So it covers a gamut of things in addition to the hot water recirculating that we've been talking about. Why we do this is because water resources are limited. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about that. But the cost to construct new infrastructure is high and rising, and the maintenance cost for infrastructure is high also. So we want to try to use the existing infrastructure and extend its life as long as possible, because it's a public resource. We want to protect it. And then the how, there are a number of solutions that are available, including the hot water recirculation, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides. I build in Texas. I just wanted to throw this up here quickly so you can see how important it is in the environment that I'm in that we protect our water resources. We're growing at about 1,300 people a day. Last year we had record rainfall. I don't know in what part of the country most of the people are calling from, but in Texas my part of Texas, we had 66 inches of rainfall last year, which is 8 or 10 times the rainfall that a lot of areas get. But in addition to that, by next year we'll still have water restrictions because we're growing so rapidly in this area. We just don't have the infrastructure to meet all the needs. We're growing at 2% a year, which is more than twice the rate of the national average, higher than any other state except North Dakota in the last 5 years. And the only reason it grew faster is because of the oil boom in North Dakota. But all those people that are moving into the state, they have to have water. And so it's a very desirable resource that without it, we simply can't live our lives. So we have to protect it. And whatever measures we can take to do that really benefit all of us. So the low-hanging fruit in smart water tech is outdoor watering and toilets and showers. And the industry as a whole has done a pretty good job of addressing this. Smart irrigation, drip irrigation systems really go a long way towards addressing outdoor water usage, which, at least in my part of the country, about 80% of our water usage is outdoors. So when we look at low-hanging fruit, that's where we can have the biggest impact. And of course, toilets and showers have been regulated at the federal level for years to have restrictors in them, so we use less water there. And the TACO Solutions presentation pointed out the fact that when you slow down the water flow, it takes longer for the water to get from the hot water heater to the end point of use. So that's why the recirculating systems are so important these days. The not so low-hanging fruit would be things like toothbrushing and hot water delivery. And toothbrushing, you think, man, how much water could you waste brushing teeth? Well, according to national industry standards, it's about 3 gallons of water that you'd save per day if you just turn off the water while you're brushing your teeth. And if you multiply that times 330 million people, that's 1 billion gallons a day. When you think of it in those terms, saving a tiny bit of water on a broad scale really adds up into billions and billions of gallons of water. And then hot water delivery is specifically what we're addressing today. And I'll talk a little bit about how we do that in our luxury homes. So the on-demand consumption for both hot and cold water use includes some of the following things. Things like the Touch 2.0 technology that Delta has come out with. Others have it as well. This is really being driven from the commercial sector because consumers are seeing this in restaurant restrooms and in hotel restrooms where water demand is at a very, very high level. Those businesses understand that if they can put this touch technology in, they can cut their water consumption by 60, 70, 80% in the restrooms. And so now customers are asking for that in the home. And that's one way to control cold water usage, is to put the Touch 2.0 technology in so that people don't just turn the water on and leave it running while they're doing something. They actually touch the faucet and then it either turns off automatically or they can touch it again, it turns back off. Another way to control it is with TACO's hot water recirculation pumps, which we just saw a great presentation on. Another way is with on-demand sensors or timers, to where, and this again was in the TACO Solutions presentation, you walk into a room and a sensor can tell through an occupancy sensor that a person's in the room, and it'll start up the hot water recirculation pump so that by the time you reach over and turn the hot water on, it's already there. And then of course tankless water heaters are another great feature. Instead of keeping 30, 40, 50, 100 gallons of water hot all the time, just heat the water as it's needed so you're not burning energy heating water that's not being used. So this is a typical arrangement for a luxury custom home. I don't have quite as many bathrooms and things on here as we typically have. One of our typical homes has about 6 or 7 bathrooms in it. But in very simple terms, The pump that you see in the middle pumps hot water out of the water tank through a loop through the entire building, and typically the length on this is less than 300 feet. If you're going to go over 300 feet, you can run into some circulation issues and have to go to a different type of pump. But this pump will slowly move the water through this loop so that if you go to any of the outlets, the master bath, bath tube, kitchen, laundry, or any other bathroom, and when you turn the hot water on, it's within about 5 to 7 seconds the user has hot water. So that's standing there wasting 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons of cold water waiting for the hot water to get there. This is a typical solution that's been used in several homes in the luxury home market for many years. What we're doing now, though, is we're doing this with the tankless water heaters. So it's the same loop. It's just now going through a tankless water heater, and Taco has the Genie that works well with tankless water heaters. There are some tankless water heaters that have pumps built into them also. But the bottom line is this technology is here and needs to be used so that we can not only save on water usage, save on energy consumption, but we can increase the comfort to our homeowners by allowing them to have instant hot water when they turn the faucet on. By the way, the pump for this in this loop situation can be located anywhere. It can be under the cabinet in the master bath, it can be in the attic, it can be in the garage, it can be next to the water heater. Just so long as it's somewhere in that loop, the pump will serve the same purpose. There's some other solutions that we look at that fall into the smart water tech category, or things like leak detection, which we've used. We've done it a couple of different ways. We always have leak detection on our HVAC systems, so that if the condensate lines get stopped up for whatever reason, it'll shut down the HVAC system. We put water sensors underneath bathtubs, underneath washing machines, that will control the valve on the incoming water line to the house. It'll also alert the homeowner that there's a leak, and it'll shut the valve so that it doesn't flood the whole home. It protects the value of the home and the contents, and it saves water. We also use water filtration systems in our luxury homes, which improves the water quality and the taste. So that's the end of my presentation. I've enjoyed it. If you have any questions at the end, and I'll hand it back to you, Andrea.
Hey, this is Greg with Tech Home. Thank you so much, Barry. Now I want to introduce our next panelist, Pam Fossey from Fossey Construction, who will talk about her smart water perspective from North Carolina building. Pam?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So we take a little bit of we're on the coast of North Carolina, so we have to build to really strict hurricane standards. We don't necessarily have a shortage of water, but one thing that we try to take advantage of in the smart water route is to use good filtration. We also like to capture our water and reuse our water. So a couple of things that we do is we focus really strongly on filtration systems that provide our customers with very clean water. We have a lot of wells. We have very high calcium content and a lot of hard water in this area. We also have salt. Some of the high sodium content of the water has been a problem. So we really need, most of our customers really need to have some sort of a filtration system. That is optimized, in our opinion, by also using a manifold system. So that provides us with a way to only filter the specific fixtures that we need filtration. We use all the same kinds of things that Barry uses and some of the TACO things, the on-demand hot water systems, but we take that a step farther because of some of the specific issues that we're concerned about around here. So one of the other things we use besides filtration, we like to use the manifold system so that every single fixture has a direct run right from our manifold, from the hot water heater or our cold water intake. The other thing that we do in recapturing is we try to build green roofs, which I think that's something that a lot of people in the country do. We're really starting to focus on trying to bring that into our normal build process, to have some sort of a green roof that can capture the water. We can actually grow things on the roof. It also provides a lot of cooling for the house on the inside. And I know we are kind of out of time, so I'm not going to continue to talk all that much, but one of the things that we believe is that existing technology is not really fully optimized, and it's very difficult to decide. There's so many technologies out there. It's very difficult to figure out which technologies a homeowner should use, and I know homeowners get very confused about that. So I'll introduce Chris. Chris is our plumbing and HVAC qualifier. He has a very strong background in the science, And one of the things that he considers important is the NSF certification. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would just urge everybody to, there's a lot of equipment out there with a lot of claims. You can go to the NSF website, you can look up the various manufacturers and what they've actually gotten their products certified for, and there's a next slide in there that's got a couple of filters that do have the NSF mark on it. I would just urge everybody to, you know, make sure that they're getting a product that really does what it's supposed to. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And at this point, I want to start a little bit of a discussion here. We talked a lot about smart water, and both Pam, you and Barry used different types of technology, but how do we market this technology? As we know, smart water isn't something a customer is always asking for. Barry, maybe you want to go first, but how do you market this to your clients as a builder?
Well, I can think of two ways that work really well for two specific smart water technologies. One of them is the irrigation, because we run into water restrictions here where we're only allowed to water 1 day a week. And in Texas, we like our lush lawns and our beautiful landscapes and our large trees. So I tell my homeowner that if they're willing to put in smart irrigation system, which consists of an ET controller and drip irrigation, they're actually exempted from the water restrictions when they do that. So they're able to water their yard a couple of times a week, water their landscape a couple of times a week, and not violate the restrictions. The other one, having to do with the hot water recirculation, and we don't necessarily sell that on a water savings. We sell it on comfort. We let them know that if they go to any faucet in their home, they're going to get hot water within 5 to 7 seconds, and they can take hours back to back to back to back all day long if they've got company there, and they're never going to run out of hot water because we use a tankless water heater. And when I present it that way, they have no problem buying into both of those solutions.
And I want to address a question that we got there in the chat from Mark Stimson, which is, do the Taco Hotlink solutions work with tankless water heaters? John?
No, we want to avoid timers with tankless. Your biggest concern with the tankless is making sure that thing fires only when there's an imminent use for domestic hot water. And the reason is fairly simple. A tankless water heater fires to make hot water based upon flow. It senses flow as the result of someone opening a hot water tap. It says, hey, someone's using hot water, I better start making it. And then it'll make it until it reaches a temperature, or the faucet is closed. If you run a timer or a Smart Plus type of thing that runs at a specific time, whether there's a hot water use or not, the water heater itself is going to kind of do this. It's going to turn on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off, using gas unnecessarily, but more importantly, short cycling itself into an early grave. So really anything other than, what we have found, anything other than an on-demand type of DHW recirculation system, something that turns on when use for hot water is imminent, and most importantly runs for a very short amount of time, is really the best way to do recirculation with a tankless. Otherwise, you're putting in something and you're helping it fail prematurely, meaning the water heater, which is a big ticket item. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If not, please let me know and I'll try to explain better.
Yeah, very, very interesting perspective there. I do also want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, you can add them in your panel and we'll be able to ask them to our panelists for you. I have another question I'd like to ask Pam. Why is smart water an easy technology for builders to install? And Chris, if you want to weigh in on this as well.
Why is it an easy technology? Well, number one, it's while you're roughing in a house that is the easiest time to approach any kind of water savings, whether it be filtration or adding a hot water. The decisions are being made at at that stage when builders are involved in the process. Even if you're doing remodels, and we find this quite often too, we'll do large luxury remodels. People have bought a house, they want it completely gutted and make it their own, and they're willing to spend the money to make the systems in the house better. And so we feel like the water system is probably one of the most important systems that's in the house, and builders have such an opportunity to do these great add-ons for clients that make their life much better. I think it's a win-win for everybody if the builder can get involved in that and not wait until the client moves into the house and has a problem or figures out that, boy, I could have done that a little bit better. I think they really expect builders to be on top of the technology, especially when you're in the luxury end.
So Pam, at your company, when you want to install smart water, who do you turn to? Is it dependent on the technology? Does Chris help with that? Do you have other contractors that help with that? How do you deal with a smart water project?
I'm going to let Chris address that. I hired Chris so that we could do it ourselves. So I'm going to let him address it.
Well, that's exactly right. We self-perform all of that because we stay farther ahead than most of the contractors do. And a lot of times we will want to try some things in the market, and we're willing to do that ourselves. We're a full design build so that we can actually work right from the time that the pencil hits the paper to make sure that the house is ready for all of these smart technologies.
Does that answer your question?
And yeah, so you guys do it all in-house. You don't have to go through a contractor.
No, we have, Andrew. In the past, certainly we had contractors that we worked with, and while that wasn't the worst way to do it, I think that what we found is that most of the time the subcontractors that are, especially in this area, are not scientists, and they are not. What they are is old school plumbers, and they really don't have time or interest in keeping up with the technology. 15 years ago when I started installing the tankless water heaters, I had plumbers who would turn down my jobs because they didn't know what they were, they didn't want to do them, they didn't want to learn about them. And we find that maybe that's not universal, but in an area such as this, or I'm assuming in other rural areas, keeping up with the technology can be sort of a full-time job. And we found that the plumbing subcontractors that we had were unwilling to do go outside the envelope and work with some of these newer technologies and really work to make it the best system. So we brought it in-house. Now we do it ourselves. It's really been a time savings and a cost savings for us as well.
We have time for one more question. It's going to be kind of twofold. We'll go to Barry first. Why do you think this is a technology builders should be installing, and then where do you see it going in the next 5 years in building projects?
I think the reason we should be installing is because it makes sense. It's the right thing to do. It improves comfort for the homeowner, it saves water, reduces expenses. There's all kinds of pluses. I can't think of that's associated with it. And the other reason I think we should be doing it is because it's going to be forced on us whether we like it or not. Municipalities are having a hard time keeping up with water demand and water maintenance costs. And so the codes and the local municipality regulations are going to require us to do these things in the future. So what we can look for in the next 5 years is we can look for an increased demand from the public and an increased code requirement that's going to force us to use these technologies.
Pam, do you want to weigh in on that as well? And Chris?
I totally agree with what Barry said. I also want to add that it's really, I think we're obligated to provide this kind of savings. The environment it's unsustainable the way we are currently building. We use way too many materials. We don't focus on reuse. We don't focus on reuse of water. It's not a sustainable way to build or to survive. And I think it's going to have to be builder driven because consumers don't know enough and maybe don't care enough at this point. So I think builders have to step up to the plate and really get into get on board with all of the smart water technologies, stay on top of it.
Well, thank you so much, and I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank John Barba and Takeo for sponsoring this webcast. I also want to thank Pam and Barry and Chris. It's been a very insightful presentation, and again, all of you builders and contractors or whoever's listening, keep smart water in mind in your projects because it's definitely something that's growing. And this webcast, for those of you who have friends who you want to have listened to this, it will be recorded and it will be on our website, techhomebuilder.com. So you'll be able to listen to this online as well after the fact. So if you have any friends who you want to listen, any colleagues, you thought there was an interesting tidbit, you can go ahead and log on to our website, techhomebuilder.com, and we'll have it there. Again, thank you so much, Pam, Barry, and John and Chris. We really appreciate you being part of this discussion.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We appreciate
Glad to help
it.
out.